I can tell you in my first agency, I had a huge rise. We had 600 global customers, multi-million dollar business, but it hit a head wall.
When you have a vision of a better future, 99% of people that you share that vision with just don't get it.
I actually sought to sell or raise capital for my business. And it turned out that one of the companies we were trying to sell to chose to take door number 3, which was to become my personal mentor. And they've been my mentor ever since, and it changed my life. And I can't tell you the value of mentorship.
Why would you sail across the Atlantic Ocean? I don't understand. Why on earth would you do that? Everything's nice here, right?
Tripling down on my greatest strength, which has always been on net new sales, business development, to teach me to become more of a well-rounded CEO. It was to back up and to increase the baseline knowledge of my weakest part of business ownership.
Customer-driven leadership is an organizational model that flips the hierarchy, and it basically invites all of the employees to share the vision and values of the founder and that long-term goal.
Welcome to Outsource to Profits. I have a fantastic guest here. Daniel, do you mind describing who you are, what you do, and how you serve the world?
Yeah, fantastic. Jamie, I have 2 companies. One is Customer-Driven Leadership, which is a operating system for servant-led organizations that helps 10x growth. And then I have consulting services called Business Interrogation, where I provide a third-party perspective on many business challenges. And my goal is to help 1,000 entrepreneurs make the world a better place.
Fantastic. Really appreciate this. Now we're going to dive into what feels like the power of mentorship, third-party advice in your business. I can tell you in my first agency, I had a huge rise, kind of claim to fame was we had 600 global customers, multi-million dollar business, but it hit a head wall. And when it hit a head wall, I actually sought to sell or raise capital for my business. And it turned out that one of the companies we were trying to sell to chose to take door number 3, which was to become my personal mentor. And they've been my mentor ever since, and it changed my life. And I can't tell you the value of mentorship. So let's actually start with the first question. First question is, why do founders feel like they need to row the boat alone into the dark sea and avoid asking for help?
Yeah, I think I think it's a great question. I think when you have a vision of a better future, right? I think one of the things you learn very quickly is 99% of people that you share that vision with just don't get it. They don't understand, why would you sail across the Atlantic Ocean? I don't understand. Why on earth would you do that? Everything's nice here, right? So I think they get burned out trying to explain what they're trying to accomplish, and the lack of understanding of most people to bridge that gap shuts down a lot of things. And then once things are in process, you've got a routine that you do in running your company, and it's hard to break that routine when you're the only person rowing the boat, as you say.
Where do you find that will be the first inflection point as you're working with your customers, the founders you work with? Where do you first feel the light bulb moment go off in their head where they realize, number one, there's no shame in asking for help. Number 2, they have that light bulb moment that more brain power on a problem is actually, it's not 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 + 1 = 5, because these new ideas are so wildly different than their own. These aren't just incremental growth ideas. These are like full change function differences. Is there a question that you ask? Is there a thing that you do with them? Where do you see the light bulb go off?
Yeah, it really depends on what I'm brought in for. I would say first, because customer driven leadership is an organizational model that flips the hierarchy, and it basically invites all of the employees to share the vision and values of the founder and that long term goal. So really, the whole company becomes your sounding board for your success, right? And if one person sees an iceberg coming, they have no problem running up and telling the captain. Whereas in a strong hierarchy, if the janitor sees the problem in the company, what's the chance he's going to run up and tell the founder or the CEO, right? And so that empowerment is one tool. If I'm coming in as a consultant, I usually ask, what is your vision, or where are you trying to go? And then I just I'm an interrogator by occupation. So I ask them questions that help me better understand the direction and the vision for where they want to go. And I challenge that vision. I shake it up to see what's really important in the things that are in their head. Which I think helps focus and multiply that vision.
Fantastic. Where do you find the biggest impact? So if you were to summarize for a founder the power of mentorship, the power of advisory, what have you found in the customers you've worked with and those that have taken on mentorship? And I can tell you from my own personal experience, mine was a reframing of, instead of just tripling down on my greatest strength, which has always been on net new sales, business development, to teach me to become more of a well-rounded CEO. It was to back up and to increase the baseline knowledge of my weakest part of business ownership, which was around financial acumen and around operational rigor that led to how I sourced new talent. And that's where I got into offshoring. So mine was actually kind of polar opposite to a lot of people say. It's like, oh, just 10x down on your strengths. Well, in fact, my mentor said, if you actually want to run a scaled organization, you're going to have a baseline knowledge of every facet of a business, and you're too weak in certain areas. So you're going to have to raise that level. What would you say have been some of the areas, maybe it's best advice, or the biggest impact areas that founders get from an advisor, a mentor, what have you?
Yeah. I think you have to be, first of all, I think the truth in what you say is around I think you have to reach competency in all of the important factors, right? Because if you're incompetent in one or two things, those are the places that your business is going to get blindsided and you're going to run aground, right? So I completely agree. You need to have a level of competency in all the things so that if somebody says something that doesn't make sense or is crazy, you at least know to slow the conversation down and say, wait, can you explain that to me in a little bit more detail so I can understand? Because if you're competent and they're an expert, maybe they do know stuff you don't know. But again, you want to know where to challenge. And then when it comes to bringing in the inside partners, you definitely want people who shore up those areas where you're weaker, right? The people who can give you the advice. And again, whether it's a mentor, whether it's an advisory board, whether it's, a mastermind is maybe an affordable level of stuff, have somebody that can challenge the thinking on the key decisions that you have to make and the key struggles that your business is stuck in. Right. I think, one of my coaches, Dan Sullivan, used to say, don't tell people about the things you're sure of because they can't help you there. Right. You have to bring forth the things that you're not sure of, where there's some uncertainty.
And it's interesting. So I've just finished The Gap and the Gain. I've listened to Who Not How. Like, Dan Sullivan's also from Toronto. So what's incredible is he is the coach to the coaches. He is the coach to every CEO I know has been through Dan Sullivan. Maybe for the audience, just as an aside, what is it that Dan Sullivan provides to the coaches, the coaches to the stars? Like, it's incredible.
Yeah. Dan Sullivan generates thinking tools. That is, and what got me into strategic coach was, I'm a systems guy. I comprehend systems at insane speeds. Like, I've interrogated on weapons of mass destruction, and I don't have PhDs in physics and chemistry and biology. But one of the things that Dan did was he invited us to a taster session, right? Where he handed out tools to 200 entrepreneurs and put us in breakout rooms of 4 people with no ringers in the room, confident that in talking to each other about where we were struggling within this tool, we would be able to help each other. Blew my mind to think that he had that level of confidence that his tools were going to serve the good.
Amazing. That's incredible. Where do people get a hold of you? Where can people talk to you if they want to know more about your program?
Yeah, customerdrivenleadership.com, businessinterrogation.com, but really LinkedIn. Just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Tell me you met me through Jamie, and tell me what's. I only like to help people where I can help people. Otherwise, I'm happy to refer you to somebody who I think can solve your problem, but I've got a really good connecting network as well. So
fantastic. Well, it was a pleasure having you on Outsource to Profits.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it. Had a great time.
Thank you.